Hi, my name is Crystal Asbury-Burnett. I am a health and wellness coach, a certified personal trainer, and the co-owner of Infinite 30 Green Country in Owasso, Oklahoma. And I am pleased you've joined us for this episode of the Infinite Possibilities podcast. In each episode, we provide you with inspiration, insights, and ideas that can help you personally unleash all of the infinite possibilities in your life. In this episode, I have the honor, and I am so excited to have a conversation with Dr. Cedric Bryant. Dr. Cedric Bryant is the President and Chief Science Officer for ACE, American Council of Exercise. He is a national and international lecturer, writer, and expert source. Bryant has written more than 200 articles or columns in fitness trade magazines, as well as sports medicine and exercise journals, and authored, co-authored, or edited 30 books. He can often be found as an authoritative resource for fitness and nutrition articles in a variety of respected national outlets, including USA Today and Washington Post. Dr. Bryant shares his expertise within the fitness industry as a scientific advisory board member for numerous organizations such as the CDC and the World Health Organization. I am excited today to speak with Dr. Bryant and have him share his experience within the field of wellness, and also just a great conversation with his outlook on how we are attacking the ever-changing world of wellness, as well as health, and educating those members of our communities and communities abroad. So I just want to take a few minutes and welcome Dr. Cedric Bryant to our podcast. I'm excited to have him here today. So, we're both kind of in the wellness industry. I mean, ours is, and my background is exercise and nutrition. So one of the things that we really want to visit with you today about is just as a role from the perspective of exercise. We want to know what's ACE's focus right now as far as the population and basically exercise in general.
Sure. And that's a great question, Crystal. I guess one of the personal frustrations that I've had for probably decades now is if I were to ask 10 people, do you think exercise is important and helpful and beneficial and so forth? Almost all of those 10 would probably say yes. You might have the random outlier. So let's say 9 out of 10 would say yes. And then if I were to ask those same 10 people, do you exercise or participate in physical activity on a regular basis? I'd be lucky to get 2 people to say yes. And so for me, it's always been troubling in terms of what's that disconnect? Why is it that people know it's something that's good for them, something that I think most people wouldn't mind doing, but they don't seem to be able to make that gap from what I know is good for me, what I'd like to do, and doing it? There's a pretty significant gap. And so my focus has been on how do we close that gap? And I think a lot of the answers lie in kind of lifestyle behavior change, being able to coach people to make those small but challenging changes in lifestyle that can help facilitate a more active lifestyle. And so a focus of ours organizationally has really been on the discipline of health and wellness coaching, as well as just kind of lifestyle behavior coaching in general, because we know that exercise offers people so many benefits. I mean, there virtually isn't a system in our bodies that can't benefit from having us move more and exercise and be more active. But so few of us take advantage of it. And it really has pretty profound impacts on our public health, our population health as a country. And we see that when we look at various chronic conditions. Most of your major chronic conditions, if we could get the population just to move a little bit more, could really change the profile and reduce the prevalence of those chronic conditions, save lives, help people to live better, healthier, more productive lives. And so, if I'm going to leave a legacy, I hope it is to start to solve that puzzle of how can we get more people moving more often.
Right. And I think one of the things that we do within our company is lifestyle coaching. And I think that is really the new
avenue to take, because I think when we say, do you want to go on a diet or do you want to exercise? Sometimes you immediately get a flag. No, I can't do that.
Exactly.
Exactly. So I think the thing that we're really focusing on, not only this podcast, is just really educating people that we can take small steps. It doesn't have to be a massive change. And it might be something as simple as getting a 20-minute walk 2 or 3 times a week. Because I think what happens with most people, Cedric, is they think of exercise and it just overwhelms them.
Yes, we've made, in many instances, people have raised the bar too high, particularly for that person who is unaccustomed to moving. And there's just a recent report in JAMA that indicates that if we could just get people to move just 10 minutes more over the course of the day, that we'd save us about 111,000 lives. I mean, that's significant.
That is a significant number. And we always discuss there the 17% of the population probably exercises on a regular basis.
Exactly.
And yet we have more and more tools, more and more education, more and more environments, but the percentage isn't growing.
Right, because I think people need someone to kind of come alongside them and to guide and encourage. And I think oftentimes what I find when I talk with particularly younger, less experienced trainers, is that many of them believe that if I can just master the next new training technique or get the next new device, whatever that might be, that's going to be the secret to success. And what I always try to help them to understand is that really it's being able to learn how to establish a connection with that client, understand what that client's needs are, kind of, what's their why, what are their motivators, and really to meet them where they are and just come alongside and guide them. And I think oftentimes what less experienced trainers will find themselves doing is that they'll find themselves wrestling with their clients, trying to tell them, you should be doing this, you should be doing this, this is how you do this correctly, this is the exercise that's going to help you burn the most calories, do all these things, and you're not considering what the person's wants, needs, and desires are. And if you can do that, I think you can transform the relationship from one where you're constantly wrestling with your client to one where you're partners with your clients and you start dancing with your client. And that transforms the relationship.
Yes. And you have to connect. You have to be able to connect with that person, whether it's in nutritional coaching or it's in exercise.
Exactly.
You have to be able to connect with them. And I love that what you said as far as coming to where they're at. Because, I was a trainer for over 25 years. And the one thing I said was no two people are the same.
Exactly. That's right.
And they all came in with different, limitations or restrictions or whatever it might be. And so I couldn't just put out a canned program and say, do this in this order and you're going to get these results, because it wasn't applicable to each person.
That's right. That cookie cutter approach doesn't work with real people.
No, it doesn't. And I think we have a lot of environments that are provided to us now that are more cookie cutter, with the internet and just all these screening type things. So I think that's where we kind of lose a little bit of connection with people as well.
Right.
Because not everybody can do what that program is and they don't know how to modify it.
Right. No, and the thing too is that I think in our, busy, information loaded world, we've really lost the simple art of listening. And I think if more professionals could learn to really listen carefully and actively listen to their clients and really engage with them, they could really have more impact.
I think so too. So as someone's looking at exercise, what steps do you think that we could be using as not only from lifestyle coaching for us, but also what steps do you think we can that kind of intrigue people into exercise who've been kind of avoiding it?
Well, I think, part of it is just to try to identify where, and hopefully they have had some positive experience with movement. Just try to, identify, are the things that they found enjoyable. And even if it may not be the ideal exercise, if it's movement, start there.
Right.
Because the one thing that the research overwhelmingly shows is that people are more likely to start and stick with something that they find some level of enjoyment with.
Right.
And I think we just have to recognize that it isn't so much about the prescription as it is about really trying to get people just to get started. And I like how you said, in terms of with your clients, you'll take kind of those small steps. Really, I like to tell the young professionals that I have opportunities to chat with is to look for identifying some small wins for that client early on in the program. And it could be really very simple things. Just getting them to, walk, to rather than, trying to communicate to your loved ones by yelling up the stairs, just encourage them just to walk and have a face-to-face conversation. Something that simple, just to get them to start moving, just to get them to look for opportunities to play. Because I think one of the things that happens with us as we become mature, and that oftentimes equals boring, is that we lose that sense of play that we had as young people, as kids. And I think if we can, help people to kind of recapture that sense of play, that can also help getting people who really aren't accustomed, because everyone isn't Brad, who just, naturally loves, being physically active and exercising, and he would probably die if he couldn't. Right. But most people see it as something, oh my goodness, I don't want to sweat. I don't want to have my muscles possibly feel a little sore. But those people, we've got to, again, to your point, meet them where they are and just get them just to simply move.
Right. And I think just giving people evidence, because I think with like you said, we're an information loaded, some of it good information, some of it,
yes,
misinformation. And I tell people a lot of times in not only exercise, but in nutrition, there's more misinformation than information that really people can use for, guiding them. One of the things that we really talk about with our members and our client base is really recognizing the why. And I think
exactly.
You hit on that. You've got to know, why do you want to take back your health? Why do you want to lose a little weight? And
that's right.
I will tell people all the time, you have to have a why. My why is different than your why or Brad's why. My why is my mom is in her 80s and she's not in good health, and I'm in my 60s and I don't want to be her. At 80, I want to be playing with my grandkids and traveling and being physically active and able to move, where she's tied to an oxygen, cord. So, but everybody has to have a why. What is it? What connects?
But I think, Crystal, what separates you from a lot of the folks that I speak with is that one, you recognize the importance of trying to understand your client's real underlying why, because what we hear from many people is just what's on the surface. I want to lose weight. I want to get in better shape, whatever that is. But you're right. What's the underlying reason as to why you want to accomplish that? But in order to do that, you've got to take time to get to understand and know your client.
Right.
And I think that's really what's missing for a lot of the kind of client coach or client trainer relationships, is that time isn't taken to really delve into and understand what's really the underlying motivation as to why someone wants to try to accomplish goal XYZ.
Right. I think the biggest thing we see in today's society, of course, we've all been exposed to it, is what's happened in the last couple of years with COVID and how it's impacted all of our lives. I tell people all the time, it's the first thing in my lifetime that impacts every person in some shape or form. It doesn't matter location, gender, ethnicity. It's everything. It doesn't, and it isn't selective. It doesn't say, okay, this person, that person. Right. It's just, it's one of those things that we can't even understand. But I think I share a passion similar to you. If I make an impact, the impact we want to make, and I know ACE does as well, is improving the wellness of our population.
Exactly. Well, and that's one of the things, when you were asking me in terms of kind of recapping my career, one of the opportunities that I've had is that I've been able to sit on, panels and round tables for the CDC as well as the WHO. And one of the things that those two prestigious public health organizations have begun to recognize is that it is clear that if we can get our population moving more, that it's going to have a significant impact on improving overall public health. And part of what they're seeing is that when you look at things like diabetes, hypertension, many forms of cancer, all of those conditions are improved as one's fitness status improves and their level of activity improves. And so one of the things that they've begun to recognize is that there really needs to be an effort and attention given to trying to promote more physical activity, because we really, we suffer from a physical inactivity epidemic in our country. And so they really want to come up with ways to improve that. And one thing that your listeners might be interested in is that the CDC has an initiative called Active People, Healthy Nation. And what the goal of that initiative is to try to get 27 million Americans moving more than they currently do. And how they break that down is they're trying to get 15 million Americans to move from the couch, if you will, from doing nothing to just doing something. It's those small steps that you talked about. And then another 10 million getting people from doing something to meeting the minimum activity guidelines of accumulating 150 minutes of activity over the course of a week. And then the final 2 million is to get 2 million of our young people meeting the physical activity standards for young people. And that is to accumulate an hour or more of movement or physical activity 5 times per week. And so that goal is to reach that number of 27 million Americans moving more than they currently do by the year 2027. And they have a number of strategies that involve, changing the environment, that involve engaging professionals like yourself and others to be able to go out and have resources to impact more lives. And so it's a multi-factored approach to try to get those 27 million Americans moving more.
That's a great initiative. I mean, that is amazing. And those factors of people that don't understand what the normal range for movement is in a week. Mm-hmm. I don't think a lot of people even have that information, Cedric, that they know. Right. That this, I would tell people, they'll say, well, how often should I exercise? And, you have to really, number one, find the person to see what that means to them.
Right.
I just tell people, start with, 3 20-minute walks a week. Just get out and walk, take a walk in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Don't make it so big. You don't have to jump into a boot camp or something like that.
Right.
And I will tell you, we discussed this with an orthopedic surgeon who did our program. And he said, for every 10 pounds you lose, it's 4% pressure off your knees.
Exactly. Yep. No, there's nothing more joint friendly than losing any excess weight you might have. Right.
And I think too, we had a story where a woman was supposed to have a knee replacement, and her physician just said, if you could get on a recumbent bike and bike for 10 minutes every day, see if we can't strengthen up that area before we do surgery. She actually postponed the surgery because that change in movement was reducing her pain. Mm-hmm. And the doctor said, you know what, let's not do this surgery until we absolutely have to. So the fact that movement postponed a surgical procedure because of the increase in activity was actually reducing the pain in that.
Well, knee. And that's pretty significant, because the longer you can delay that surgery, it's much better for her over the long term in terms of that joint being able to last her, for her, functional lifespan. Right. The other thing too is that even if, let's say, it was so advanced that the surgery was inevitable, and the one thing about having people exercise prior to having those types of surgeries is that their recovery and outcomes are improved. So it's all good.
Right. We always say there's not a side effect
right.
of exercise in any shape or form.
Well, that's why I laugh, because I always say that if exercise were a pill, and because I always laugh at these commercials where, whether it's a diabetes med or some other type of medication, they talk about it may cause this, that, and the other thing. And most of those things are pretty scary things when you listen to all the side effects.
Yeah.
But if you were to have a commercial for exercise and say, okay, it might cause you to perspire, you might breathe a little heavier, it's like, but you get all these other benefits.
Right.
It just,
Right.
to me, it seems like it should be a no-brainer for people to say, why wouldn't I do it?
Right. So as you visit with ACE professionals today, has it changed much in the last 5-10 years?
I think the biggest, really, I'd say in the last two years, as a result of this COVID pandemic, I think one of the biggest changes is that making the pivot to being able to train and coach people in a virtual environment, because with a lot of the restrictions and so forth in terms of in-person gatherings and fitness facilities have made it a challenge for professionals to train people, live, unless it's an outdoor boot camp or a group activity, something like that. And so I think a lot of them have learned how to, become better at their cueing and coaching techniques, utilizing, technology and Zoom and other virtual tools.
Right. I think we've seen even in our local area here that we have clubs that are looking for trainers and just can't find trainers because a lot of them pulled out of the industry with COVID.
Yes.
Because they couldn't functionally work or hadn't learned, like you said, to pivot so that they could do something virtually. I think you can still do it. I think we've pivoted with our coaching, and we have a lot of people that are, going under our nutritional guidelines that aren't even in our store, that are across the nation.
Right.
So we have people that, are being guided by us who aren't physically near us in situations. So I think we all had to pivot. Basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think one of the things that we've seen in our industry as far as trainers is just trying to find trainers who are back in the industry or what's pulling them back into the industry. Have you seen that as well?
Yeah, actually, one of the things that I think as we get past this latest Omicron variant and we get to the point where things are able to open up, it seems like there is increasing interest in the field again, which is encouraging. But I would suspect that until we're able to get to an environment where it's easier, I'd say, to probably do a hybrid business where you can do a combination of virtual and in person. It's going to remain a challenge, I think, to have the numbers of trainers that are needed to help the many people that need it. And the thing is that's unfortunate is that if we didn't have so many people being inactive, that probably some of the devastation and impact of COVID probably could have been lessened, because one of the things that we do know is that individuals who had unhealthier, risk profiles, whether they had hypertension, diabetes, obesity, and so forth, they fared worse. And we know if we could have gotten those people involved in consistent activity programs, healthy nutrition and diet, and so forth, that we probably reduced the number of those folks who were impacted by obesity, by diabetes, by hypertension, and therefore we wouldn't have had so many individuals in what we were defining as those high risk groups that would suffer the worst outcomes if they contracted COVID.
And I've shared many times, I think one of the things that we got to take something positive out of some of this negative stuff, but I think the one positive thing I hope that all of us can come through with COVID-19 is that how precious our health is.
Exactly.
It is a gift, and we do have to continue to fuel it, with what we put in our bodies and how we move our bodies. And I think biggest thing is for not only ACE, for what we do is to make it simpler, make it simple. Yes. It's not so complicated so that it doesn't become overwhelming to people, and taking those small steps, as we try to educate people. I think one of the things that I really focus on is educating people, inspiring people, and motivating people, because as a trainer, people would say, I never struggled to find clients.
Yes.
And a lot of it had to do with the connection the education, and they wanted somebody to not hold their hand, but walk alongside with them in their journey.
Exactly. They want that trusted guide. And you're right. And, it's funny, Crystal, you were talking about how precious, our health is and what a gift it is. And what I oftentimes will tell people, and you'd mentioned you're in your 60s, I'm 61. And so, people think about, retirement and being able to enjoy, the freedom that offers in terms of time and flexibility of one's schedule. And what I always tell folks is that spend as much time focused on what I'll call your health and wellness portfolio as you do your financial portfolio, because to have all the financial resources at your disposal, but if your health is compromised, you're not going to be able to enjoy those. And so pay as much attention to trying to ensure that you're as healthy as possible, as functional as possible, so you can enjoy your well-earned, retirement, funds and so forth. Because I see so many people who get to retirement age and they have the resources, but they don't have the physical abilities to enjoy them.
Right. They want to take that trip, but they can't handle
the
travel or
exactly, or they can't go on the sightseeing tour because they just don't have the capacity to walk.
Are there statistics as far as where we are seeing the greatest increase in inactivity or obesity? Or is it kind of just across the generations?
Well, it unfortunately, much like COVID, it doesn't discriminate. It's across the generations, where there does seem to be some differences in terms of socioeconomic status, and that in the poor environments it's even more pronounced. But the thing that we're seeing, unfortunately, with the pandemic is that it has made it even more challenging for people to be active, in that we've seen activity levels decrease even more. And so that's why I think it's so important for us in our profession to really do what we can to try to help reverse that trend. And the other thing too is that when you think about the mental toll that these last few years have had on all of us, another simple thing that can help improve one's mental outlook and mood is to move more, particularly, get outside and just move and do things and just give yourself a positive break.
Yeah. I used to tell people, when you feel the least like exercising is usually when your body and your brain needs it the most.
Amen.
Yeah,
Amen.
it really is that. It really is that. So I, like I said, I think the one thing that we try to focus on, I know ACE does as well, is just improving the overall wellness of our community. What would you consider your parting words of advice for the community for movement and integrating that into their life?
I would tell everyone to view exercise or activity like loose change in your pocket. Every little bit counts. It all adds up to real money. And so while more might be better than some is better than none.
Each podcast, we try to focus on one wellness word. This podcast, I really want to focus on what is wellness. Well, the definition for wellness is the act of practicing healthy habits on a daily basis to attain better physical and mental health outcomes, so that instead of just surviving, you're thriving. I thought that was an interesting definition of the word wellness. But in truth, it really is what we decide to do when we take on that focus in our life. We want to be the best we can be. So there's several key areas of your lifestyle that are considered dimensions of overall wellness. They include social connections, exercise, nutrition, sleep, and mindfulness. Each one has an impact on your physical and your mental health. And by making simple and healthy choices on a daily basis, you can be well on your way towards reducing areas of stress, having positive social interactions, and you can start with small changes within each of these categories to take it one day at a time So you don't have to run a marathon or go on some kind of restrictive diet to implement wellness into your everyday life. Here's just a few examples of each dimension. Number one, social connections. Connecting with friends or loved ones is a great way to help improve your physical and mental health. Just take 10 minutes out of each of your day to call someone you've been thinking about. This is a great way to connect and to catch up with people that matter to you most. Exercise. As we speak with Cedric today, we talk about the importance of exercise, but even 20 or 30 minutes of daily exercise can have a positive impact on your overall sense of well-being and help improve your mood. We tell people just start by taking a brisk walk on your lunch hour, or take the stairs instead of the elevator. Little small steps can make big changes. Nutrition. Nutrition is one that sometimes we tell people can be the most difficult. This is where you can contact a coach, as we do at Infinite 30, to guide you on those nutrition plans. But it can be very simple things: meal prepping, drinking water, incorporating proteins, fruits, and vegetables into your everyday life, having them handy so that you can take them on the go with you. Sleep. Sleep is considered a hygiene. We often avoid it or don't embrace it at that. Avoid caffeine after 6 p.m. Sometimes that drinking caffeine late in the day can keep you up at night. We also talk about including quiet and calm activities before you go to bed, such as reading. One of the things that they suggest is to not be watching on the TV, on your iPad, or reading something on your phone because of the light. Something as simple as reading can calm you down. These are simple ways that you can begin your journey towards becoming a better sleeper. Mindfulness. This is something that gets passed over a lot. But did you know that practicing mindfulness is good for the body and the mind? It helps with focus and also helps change your brain. Take a moment right now to consider your mind and how you're feeling. The more you tap into your own thoughts, the more you may become aware of how you react to stressful events. So start practicing mindfulness today. It could be simple, just meditating first thing in the morning to set up your day. These are all resources that can help you on your wellness journey. And we tell people just take it one step at a time by looking at each of these sections that we consulted with you on today. This is a question that I get from multiple readers. And so I want to kind of go over this in really an easy way to think about this. But people ask the question all the time, do I really need to drink water to lose weight? I get this question a lot, and the answer is yes. We tell people all the time, if you are dehydrated, it is very, very difficult to lose weight. And you should definitely be drinking water to lose weight. The easiest way to calculate the amount is take your body weight divided by 2, 50%, and then that is in ounces. So for example, if you weigh 160 pounds, that's 80 ounces of water per day. First response I get is that's a lot of water. How am I going to drink that water? Take 80, divide it by 5, and try to get 1/5 of your water in with each meal. Snack, meal, snack, dinner. So if you take it and you divide it over that, it doesn't seem such a large challenge. I always tell people too, what's the first thing that someone asks you when you sit down at a restaurant to eat? Can I bring you a glass of water? They want you to have some water with your meal. So think about little habits like that that you can change. Drinking adequate water promotes what is known as thermogenic state, which increases your metabolic rate. So if you're not drinking enough water, you're slowing down your metabolism. In a nutshell, this means that your body has enough hydration to work as efficiently as possible to carry out all the activities it does on a daily basis, like repairing cells, digesting food, and even exercise, which boosts your metabolism as well. Also, people often mistake thirst for hunger. So staying properly hydrated will help you recognize true hunger. When you stay properly hydrated by taking sips from your water bottle, you're less likely to take a handful of some snack that's not healthy. If drinking water to lose weight is too hard to swallow, here are some tried and true tricks of the trade. Drink water at room temperature or through a straw. Add a slice of lemon, cucumber, or some sort of fruit to make it more tasty. Try seltzer water, adding bubbles if that helps Invest in a water bottle, say a 32-ounce water bottle, and fill it up according to how much water you should be taking. The goal of drinking those water bottles can be motivating. If you're doing a good job getting your fluids in, then it's a time to take charge of your behaviors as well as you identify yourself as a water drinker and have faith you can do it. You will notice that drinking water does help. Today's episode of Infinite Possibilities was edited and produced by Carson Roach-Howe, Bob Beatty, and our executive producer, Georgia Goppert. I'm Crystal Asbury-Burnett. Thank you so much for joining me. Just remember you can reach us at any Infinite 30 location at infinite30.com, and we would love to hear from you and get your comments about our show, as well as any wellness and nutrition questions you might have. Make sure to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever podcast platform you use. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and pass it along to a friend. Until next time, I hope you experience a life with infinite possibilities.